Hey there, Lib here, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the current state of Fire Mage in the Shadowlands beta. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you most likely know that I've made a video like this in the past, but I felt like as time's gone on now, I've gotten a lot better at making videos, and I would have liked to make these a lot better so people that are new to the channel can have a look at these important class videos, which are really the most important videos of Shadowlands. So I'm going to be remaking them all for Frostfire and Arcane, and then I'm going to start making some for new classes as well. So this video is going to be on the state of Fire Mage in Shadowlands, and I'm going to show you all the changes that are coming into Shadowlands from retail. So to start with, we are going to be receiving Frostbolt and Arcane Explosion as new spells to our baseline kit. Now these work just like they do for the other specializations. Frostbolt is going to do not much damage and it's going to slow, and Arcane Explosion is just going to do a fair amount of damage, about a bit less damage than Flame Strike, but it's still going to do nice damage that you can use in certain situations. Arcane Intellect is being changed up slightly. It's basically just being nerfed by 5%, so you're going to give half the buff, but since they're removing Battle Scrolls now from the new expansion, this is going to be very good, and every raid group is going to want this, and certain Mythic Plus competitions as well. We're also receiving Mirror Images baseline. It's now defensive, which creates 3 copies of you, and I'll show you here, and it's also going to make you take 20% less damage. Now whenever you take damage, any damage at all, it's going to make it so that one of these images disappears until you have no more, and then you no longer take 20% reduced damage. Now what's important to note about these is that they actually redirect threat, so when you have aggro and a mob is chasing you, if you summon your mirror images, they're going to target these clones instead. Now, they also cast Frostbolt, so if you're kiting a player, for example, you can spawn your mirror images, and they are going to keep that player slowed for you, which is really helpful in certain situations. So it's a very solid defensive, and it's really welcome to have this baseline for every mage specialization. Now these 2 abilities are Covenant abilities. I'm not going to cover them here. I have a video on Covenants. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description. And that's all for the baseline changes we are receiving to the general specialization mage spells. Also, if you didn't notice here, we now have 2 tabs, one for our fire spells and one for our mage spells. Now onto the fire specific changes. We are receiving Altered Time. It's a really welcome version back. It's the version we had in Wall of the Trainer, where you're going to mark a position, and then you can return to it whenever or when it expires, and you'll go back to the same health and place that you're in. If you see here, there's a little direct clone here of me. When this expires, I'm going to go back to that location. Now if you don't want to go back to the location and you did put one down, you can also right click the buff off your bar up here or make a macro to do that, and it will completely remove the buff. Now it's also important to note that this is going to snapshot your health, as I said a minute ago, but you have to remember that you have to be smart when using this, because if you use this when you're on low HP, then most likely you're going to teleport back to low HP. So be careful how you use this. You have to really think ahead, and it's a very good spell to have. It's very thought provoking, and you really need to think about how you're going to use this. You can't just use it by default all the time. You have to think, oh, how much health do I have here? Should I use it in this way? Do I need to prioritize position over my health? And so on. Flame Strike was just buffed slightly by 15% damage. Not a big change, but a change regardless. The biggest change we've received is we've received Phoenix Flames. Now Phoenix Flames is a 25-second recharge, as it was the talent, and it has 3 charges as the talent does as well. Now it's important to note that these Phoenix Flames are not guaranteed critical strikes. Now it's very disappointing, but as you can see here, that didn't crit. And yeah, I mean, the reason they've done this is because they've also changed up our mastery. So now our mastery requires Phoenix Flames to spread your ignite up to 8 nearby enemies. This is a welcome change. I would say most mages are happy about this, because it means you get control over your ignite. You get to decide when you want to spread it, and in general I think it's well received by the mage community. However, as it currently stands, Phoenix Flames feels a bit weak, and it feels out of place. So the way you play with Phoenix Flames right now, outside of your combustion, if you're not spreading ignite, is you want to cast it with a fireball. This way you cast them together, And, you know, it works the same as if you cast out a Fireball and a Pyroblast together. It's giving you 2 chances of getting a crit like that, and then obviously you can just keep fishing for procs. Otherwise, yeah, you have to really think heavily about how you're using Phoenix Flames now. You always want to end your combustion with the Phoenix Flames, and you're going to have to position them in a way that spreads your ignite consistently throughout. Combustion was also buffed, so very slightly. It now lasts for 12 seconds instead of 10 seconds. A welcome buff, but it's not really changing that much. Now, unfortunately, that's all we're receiving in terms of baseline changes. Now, let's have a look at the talents. So to start with, the first row is completely unchanged. They work exactly the same as they do in live. In the 25 row, Blast Wave got buffed slightly with the power behind it slow, and the damage I believe got buffed slightly, but it wasn't buffed that much, and this talent is still kind of meh. You won't really play it that much if I'm being completely honest with you. And then Shimmer got nerfed by 5 seconds, so now your Shimmer is going to be on a 25 seconds compared to Retail where it was a 20-second cooldown. I don't think this changes anything. I think as a mage, a Fire Mage especially, you're going to be playing Shimmer regardless in 99% of the situations. Next we have this row here, the 30 row. Now we've received some pretty impactful changes on this row. The first of those changes is we've received Focus Magic, where we can buff a target and the chance to critically hit with spells is increased by 5% for 30 minutes. Whenever they critically hit, you will gain a buff for 10 seconds that gives you 5% crit for 10 seconds. Now, this is different than it actually says here in the tooltip. I'll show you now quickly. I'm going to use this on this hunter, and hopefully when he starts damaging, it's going to give us a buff. Now, what it doesn't mention in the tooltip right now is that whenever you get this buff, you are getting a stacking intellect buff, which is 1% per stack. This makes it so that it's actually a very good option, and most likely, if you're playing with another mage, you'll both buff each other simply because you've crit so much, and then essentially you're getting 10% crit each, and then you're also going to be able to make use of that 1% intellect buff that stacks up. And now Rune of Power was also changed up in a very impactful way. Now Rune of Power is no longer 2 charges, it's still a 45-second cooldown, and now it lasts for 15 seconds. So whenever you place a Rune of Power, you're going to have a 15-second duration, 40% spell damage, and it works exactly the same as some Retail. The important change that this comes with this though, is that casting Combustion will also create a Rune of Power at your location. So this means that you are going to get a lot more value out of Rune of Power. Because if you think about it on live, at the moment it's a 10-second duration on a 45-second cooldown and you have 2 charges. So you're essentially still having 2 charges because your Combustion is going to summon one, but it's also on a 45-second cooldown, meaning that you're still regenerating the same amount of charges as it was before basically if you're using it on cooldown. But to top this off, it now lasts for 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So you're getting a way higher uptime on Rune of Power, and it's looking like one of the best talents for a lot of specializations. So I'll just show you that now real quickly. So we're going to see here, I'm going to place Rune of Power. It just works as intended. And then when I press Combustion, I'm also going to spawn a Rune of Power underneath me. Now, there is a really annoying bug with this at the moment, where when this Rune of Power expires, I'm actually going to lose the Rune of Power buff. See here? I don't have it anymore. The only way I get it is if I walk back into the Rune of Power that was spawned afterwards. So I don't know if Blizzard is going to fix this because it's been like this for a while, but if it doesn't get fixed, keep in mind that you should never overlap your Rune of Powers, because if you do it even slightly, as soon as one of them despawns, you'll lose the buff and you'll have to blink out and blink back in to get the buff again. Next we have Flame On, which is remaining exactly the same as it is in BFA, it's not changed at all. Kind of unfortunate to be honest, because this talent is probably one of the more useful ones, and there's quite a few things in Shadowlands that are making it so that this is a very good choice to take. Next we have Alex Strauss's Fury. Dragon's Breath always critically strikes for 50% increased critical strike damage and contributes to Hot Streak. Additionally, damage done after your next Pyroblast or Flame Strike is increased by 35%. Now this talent is actually very good now, because the bonus damage it does make it a lot more valuable in AoE situations, and on top of that, it increases your Flame Strike or Pyroblast damage, so It's actually a very good talent. This obviously has a lot of synergy with Pyroclasm, but it can be sort of hard to execute, so whenever you're playing with this, keep that in mind, because you're generating a hot streak. If you already had a hot streak, then you're going to have to cancel a hot streak to make use of this. Okay, so the Dragon's Breath talent, as you can see now, is going to generate a hot streak. It's going to do a fair amount of damage, and then it's also going to give me this buff up here where my next Flame Strike or Pyroblast is going to do bonus damage, and now it's gone. So yeah, very simple, works as it is explained, and in general this talent has become a lot better with this changes that it's got. Next we have From the Ashes, which increases your mastery by 2% for each charge of Phoenix Flames of cooldown, and your direct damage critical strikes reduces cooldown by 1 second. Now this talent is really hard to say how good it's going to be, because at maximum value you're getting 6% mastery, but you never really want to have a Phoenix Flames charge just sitting there, so that's most likely going to be 4% mastery if you're really maxing this buff. Now the cooldown reduction you get from this is really good, but unfortunately due to the stat squishing at the start of every expansion, our crit isn't exactly very high, so we are kind of in an interesting spot right now where this talent is going to be really hard to make use of, but it could be very good, and it has some synergy with Kindling in a sense that it's also, you know, your crits are going to make use of this and help you out. But otherwise, it's really simple. Again, to show you here, whenever I crit, it's going to noticeably change a bit on the cooldown. So yeah, you can get that cooldown off quite fast actually, so it's a lot better than you think, but I think it'll be way better once we start getting more crits. If you're playing with Firestarter, then this could be insanely good, right? Because you can really get a lot of Phoenix Flames in your opener. I think the biggest change, if they are going to make it so that Phoenix Flames no longer crits, it needs to benefit from Firestarter. But I think at the end of this video, what I'll do is I'll compile a list of all the bugs and other things that Fire Mage currently has, and we'll hopefully be able to get Blizzard to see that, if not unlucky, but if they do see it, then we can get some stuff fixed that Fire is really suffering from at the moment. Next we have this row here, the 40 row, which is completely unchanged. We have the 45 row, which is completely unchanged apart from Living Bomb. Living Bomb got nerfed in the fact that it just does less damage now when more targets get hit by it. Like if you read the tooltip in here, let me find where it is. It deals 154 fire damage to the target and reduced damage to all other enemies within 10 yards. So before it didn't have the reduced damage to all other enemies within 10 yards, but now it does even less damage if it hits multiple targets. So it's unfortunate, but Living Bomb is pretty good in really niche situations, and I guess this was kind of a nerf that was needed. And now for the last two rows we have Kindling, which has been changed up only slightly, so now your Phoenix Flames obviously contributes to this. I mean, it did when you talented it before in BFA anyway, but now it also gives you 1.5 seconds instead of 1 second off whenever you crit. A welcome change, to be honest with you. It's just making it more powerful, and it means we'll be able to stay away from Meteor a bit more. Pyroclasm got buffed fairly hard. I think it was a 15 or 20% buff to the additional damage it deals, or 25 even. It's somewhere around there, but either way, we got about 25% increased damage on the Pyroclasm, which is just a welcome buff. It just makes it a way better talent in general, and it was already one of the funner talents to play with in my opinion. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, Phoenix Flames really needs to be a guaranteed crit when you're playing with Firestar, because right now it's a really clunky spell and you have to always use it with a fireball or something. But you also have to be really careful because this is obviously your only way to spread Ignite, so you have to really keep in mind when you're going to be using this in single target situations. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know why it doesn't crit anymore. It's not really that interesting now that it doesn't guarantee a crit. It slows down our playstyle a bit, and Fire Mage is in an interesting spot. As I said earlier, there's the Rune of Power bug that really does need to be fixed. Blast Wave, I don't really like it on this row, to be honest. I feel like this row should be just completely changed into a mobility row because you're only taking this. Pyromaniac is the talent that is always going to have fundamental flaws in its design, simply because you're always going to be wasting hot streaks, because while casting Pyroblast or Flame Strike, while hot streak is active, it has an 8% chance to instantly reactivate it. But whenever you're casting a hot streak, you're always casting it together with a Fireball and Pyroblast. So these two Fireballs and Pyroblasts might crit, and if they did crit, and I also got the Pyromaniac proc, it doesn't matter, the Pyromaniac proc is wasted because I would have got a hot streak anyway. This talent really needs to be changed up in a way to make it more reliable. But otherwise, yeah, that's all for the changes for Fire Mage in Shadowlands. So yeah, let me know what you think. Did you like me changing up this video? I'm not rotating my camera anywhere near as much anymore so you don't get dizzy. And I thought, you know, now I've got a bit more confident making videos, I can do a lot better when making these videos. But yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more videos now that I'm starting to get into the swing of things, and we're going to be even trying a new series I'm going to be releasing soon, which will be wacky builds that involve legendary combinations and things that we wouldn't really expect a way for a class to play, but because of these legendaries and combinations we can make some fun stuff. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe, and otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions to improve my videos, please mention them in the comments, I'd love to hear. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.